Okay, I already recorded a version of this video, but it was like 30 plus minutes long and I didn't like it that much. So I'm not going to upload it normally, but I am going to upload it as unlisted. I'll link in the description if you really, really want to watch a 31-minute version of this video. Feel free to click on it and watch it. I pray that I can make this one less than 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to try to skim through a lot of the stuff. And what are we looking at in particular here? We're going to look at throughout the course of NAL 2021 season, so that is stages 1, 2, and 3. We are looking at head-to-head round counts, and we are looking at maps, okay? Specifically what maps teams played and won on, won against whom, things like this, okay? So up here is stuff I think you've seen before, so I'm not going to talk about these three in depth. It's just stage 1, 2, and 3, how many points and the placements teams got. Here are the overall points, and the only thing I want to point out here is there's a little bit of a tier system going on. SSG are clearly top tier. They got 55 points, 10 more points than anyone else in the league. By far the best team over the course of the 3 stages. And then second, we have Sonics and Oxygen at the same number of points. I put Sonics above Oxygen because mostly because they have the head-to-head against Oxygen. And then also they were more consistent getting top 4. All 3 stages. Oxygen got at 2 stages, but they had one poor stage, stage 2, where they got 6th place. But the head-to-head, I think, was enough anyways. TSM and Dark Zero separated by only 1 point. Astralis and Mirage separated by only 1 point. And then Big Gap, Beast Coast, and XSET separated by only 1 point. So we sort of have 5 tiers of teams with Space Station all by themselves, and then the other 4 tiers having 2 teams in them separated by either 0 or 1 point. And then also, I've showed this before, I think, too, but if you haven't seen it, Space Station, Sonics, Dark Zero, and Oxygen have all beaten every other team in the league at least once over the course of 2021. And TSM's beat everyone but Oxygen, Astralis everyone except for Space Station, and Sonics and Mirage everyone except for DZ. XSET have only beat Dark Zero, Mirage, Beast Coast, and Sonics, and Beast Coast have only beaten TSM, Astralis, XSET, and Mirage. Okay, moving on from that. Here we just have the results from stage 3 games. I don't even know really why I have it on the sheet, but if it's in green, I predicted it right. If it's in red, I predicted it incorrectly. No need to dwell on that. Okay, here is the more interesting stuff that I want to talk about. So we have the round counts throughout all 3 stages between teams. So like Space Station versus Sonics, this game here, the number on the left is the number of rounds won by the team in the row, so that'd be Space Station, and the number on the right is the number of rounds won by the team in the column, so Sonics. So Space Station went 14-18 against Sonics. It was their only losing matchup. They had 1 tie matchup, everything else they won. And once again, this is rounds over the course of all 3 stages. So this is over 3 maps for everyone except for, I guess, Space Station versus Beast Coast. But I actually did. That was a forfeit game, but I counted it as a 7-0. I just gave Space Station all 7 rounds and Beast Coast no rounds. I don't know. I guess I could have just excluded the game, but I did include it there. So just keep that in mind. And I don't really want to talk about any of the specifics here. You can take a look at it and see for yourself. If you want to see any of the head-to-head, see who beat whom, how each team did, but I have it all summed up over here, so I'll just talk about this. We have the league record, so it's just all of this summed up. So here's Space Station's record, Sonic's record, so on and so forth. Their differential, so how many rounds they went positive or negative by, total rounds played, and then the record count. And this is denoted in wins, draws, losses. So Space Station, 6 winning head-to-heads, 1 drawn head-to-head, and 1 losing head-to-head. Okay. And okay, so what's interesting to note here, it pretty well decreases in terms of how well teams did. Space Station clearly the best. XSET clearly the worst in terms of this, although just barely. Beast Coast has 1 winning instead of 1 drawn. But you can note things like Oxygen is a bit of an outlier in this. I guess because they got 3rd place overall, and they did pretty well, but the record count isn't that impressive compared to all the teams below them up to before Beast Coast. It's just superior record by TSM, superior record by Dark Zero, same record by Astralis, and superior record by Mirage. But you have to keep in mind that is just it's not taking into account how much they might have won by. Like maybe their 4 wins, they won by a ton, and their 4 losses, they didn't lose by very much. And then other teams, it's the opposite. So, and of course, I mean, that's why they ended up getting more points. I do think that Oxygen was a bit favored by the best of 1 system, or at least they were one of the teams that it just turned out well for them, I guess, because this, and then also we'll see in the maps, same kind of thing, where it looks like their stats, when you look at it summed up this way, it doesn't look that impressive, but They were clearly top 3 overall. And, you know, like tied at second, basically. So, right. The only other teams besides Space Station to get at least 5, I guess, were Sonics and TSM. So that is more winning than non-winning, I guess. Everyone else, like Dark Zero, has 4 winning and 4 non-winning. Of course, 2 of those are draws, but still non-winning nonetheless. And I guess most of this is pretty self-explanatory. Beast Coast played the fewest number of rounds. This makes sense, as in a lot of games they got absolutely smoked. They lost some 7-0s, some 7-1s, some 7-2s, all this stuff. And it comes out in the wash as them having played the fewest number of rounds. Space Station, the second fewest. It's sort of the same thing, but on the other end, where they played a bunch of games where they won quickly. They won 7-0, 7-1, 7-2, 7-3, whatever. Some overtime games, several overtime games, I think, in stage 1, but in stage 2 and stage 3, they had a bunch of, you know, decisive victories to make up for it. And then the most rounds played by Dark Zero here. And I think this won't really surprise anybody who watched a lot of stage 2. Dark Zero played, 6 or 7 overtime games that stage? Where is it? Stage 2, Dark Zero. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 of their 8 games went to overtime. So it makes sense that they played a ton of rounds, and then you can see all the other ones. Differentials, the top 5 teams have positive differentials and the bottom 4 have negative. Space Station is roughly about as positive as Beast Coast and Xset are negative, you know, give or take a few rounds. And the gaps are pretty noticeable in some spots. Like, obviously it's a huge gap between Space Station and Sonics, but then not that much of a gap between Sonics and Oxygen and TSM even. And then a gap here of 12, a gap here of 14, and then little gap, and then monstrous gap. And it's mostly strictly decreasing, except for in the case of where it goes from 20 to 21 here, Oxygen to TSM, and here from Beast Coast to Xset. So Xset actually had a better differential than Beast Coast. And they played quite a few more rounds than them, 23 more rounds, though they had more round losses, but they had more than enough round wins to make up for that increased number of losses. Okay, so that's just all the round counts. Again, I mean, feel free to pause it and just pour over this and, you know, see how your team did or whatever, you know, your favorite team, or just draw your own conclusions. Okay, moving on to maps. So I divided this one up into stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. I do have the round count for this, but I don't really take that into account anywhere, where I don't count up how many rounds teams won or lost on each map. I just look at if they won or lost to keep it a little bit simpler here. So do keep in mind also that this is ordered by their overall standings over the course of 3 stages. So Space Station did quite poorly in stage 1, but I still have them, you know, just as the first one, just so all 3 of these are the same. Stage 2 and stage 3 aren't terribly different from the overall. Like, I think even stage 3, they're all the same within the tier. So Space Station on top, but then Sonics actually got 3rd place, and Oxygen got 2nd in the stage. And you could switch DSM and Dark Zero, and you switch Astralis and Mirage, and you switch, and these are the same actually. So you just switch a couple. You don't have to move anyone very far. And then stage 2, maybe even a little bit different. And it makes sense that stage 3 is maybe the closest to the overall one, because that's when things were just solidified the most and whatnot. I mean, I guess. Right. Okay. So I don't really want to too much look at the individual ones here. So once again, we'll just scroll over actually, and we'll take a look at the overall records for teams. Keep in mind, Bank was not in stage 1 or stage 2. It was only in stage 3, and Consulate, the opposite, was not in stage 3, but it was present in stage 1 and 2. So, okay. I have the teams over here because, of course, I scrolled too far away from there, so I put it over here. You can see Space Station had only 1 positive record. It was on their esteemed Clubhouse, and they had 1 even record, and then a few losing ones. Keep in mind, each stage teams only play 8, so there's not that much a chance for a bunch of diversity in terms of these numbers. And then Sonics, I think every single stage, all 3 stages, they played only 3 maps. So this stage it was Oregon, Clubhouse, and Chalet, and this stage it was Villa, Consulate, and Chalet, and then this stage it was Chalet, Clubhouse, and Coastline. Yeah, so only 3 per stage, and they only doubled up on Chalet and Clubhouse as having played it in 2 stages. Coastline only in the 1 stage, Villa only in the 1 stage, and Oregon only in the 1 stage, right? So that's kind of interesting to note. That's just sort of their ban philosophy, because in the past, they used to have a system where you couldn't play the same map back-to-back weeks, so it was an auto ban. So there was either 1 or 2 auto bans, 2 if the two teams playing each other that week had played different maps last week, and then 1 if they had played the same map last week. And I'm not sure how the bans worked out in that case, like who got the extra ban or whatever, but it doesn't really have any gravity on the current situation anyway, so no need to figure that out. And then down here, I have the total number of times each map was played in the stage. So here's for stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. And you can see in stage 3, Chalet was the most played. In stage 2, it was Consulate, and in stage 1, it was Clubhouse. So I guess I could go down the line for each team, but I don't really feel the need to do so because there are just a whole bunch of them. I'm just going to maybe see if I can find any interesting ones. This one is one of the very interesting ones. Beast Coast only played Villa in this stage, and they went 2-0 on it. So I don't know if they thought they got mega lucky and it's not actually a good map for them. They beat TSM and XSET. Or I guess maybe teams just permabanned it against them because it was like one of the only maps that they won. I'm not 100% sure why they never play Villa in either of these 2 stages. It's probably something related to the latter. Either teams banned it against them because they knew it was one of their only winning maps, or teams didn't ban it against them and Beast Coast didn't pick it because, maybe they were playing against Dark Zero and Mirage, who were very good on Villa. So, okay, Mirage had 2 pretty decisive maps in Clubhouse and Villa in the first stage, and yeah, not too much else I want to talk about. Let's move on to stage 2 here. So, and I think I did show it right, but I'll give you just 1 second if you care to pause it here and look at this. You can maybe look at stage 2 before I look at the sum, the totals and whatnot. So I'll go back over here now. Okay, so this is where Space Station started to be dominant. They only lost Villa. They didn't lose any other map, and they only lost Villa the one time. They went 2-0 on Cafe, 1-0 on Consulate, 3-0 on Chalet, and they actually didn't play an eighth map, an 8th game, because this was the stage where Beast Coast forfeit against them. So only 7 games for them to keep in mind. And then Sonics, only the 1 losing record, also on Villa. Oxygen 0-2 on Chalet and Clubhouse, and on Cafe 0-1, I guess. And this was the bad stage for Oxygen. They ended up 6th place in the stage. They only won Oregon and Coastline, which I think are their 2 best maps. I think you could easily say, like Space Station, I think their best maps are probably Oregon and Cafe. Sonics, I'm not 100% sure what it is at this exact moment in time. I would have to say Chalet is excellent for them because they are actually 6-0 on Chalet over the course of all 3 stages. And actually, I shouldn't talk about this too much because I do have it down here, which I'll look at, and so on and so forth. I think once you get lower down, it's harder to pick which are the team's best maps in some cases, and especially picking 2 best maps, which I think you can do for several of the top teams. Once Beast Coast, I guess Villa is just their best map because they went 2-0 on it, and I don't think they won any other map 2 times. But like X said, it's pretty hard to pick, and we will look at that in a moment. So otherwise, in stage 2, TSM was pretty dominant in the stage. For early in the stage, they had back-to-back 7-0s on Beast Coast and Dark Zero, I think. I believe those were back-to-back. One was on Oregon and one was on Cafe. And, I mean, they didn't have any losing head-to-heads except for the 1 Coastline game, which was against... who was that against? It was against Mirage, yeah. And what else? And that was their first loss of this stage, maybe? I think, I want to say. That's when they got humbled, and they started tumbling a little bit, but they still ended up in second. That stage was still good. Dark Zero, just the 1 losing one, and then 2-0 and a 3-0, so that's quite good. This Dark Zero, I think, had the same number of wins as Space Station in this stage, but like almost all of them were in overtime, so they missed out on a bunch of points. But if overtime wins had the same value as regular wins, like if they just removed the overtime clause and gave either 3 points or 0 points, they would have been first place in the stage. They would have, I think, the same number of points as Space Station and the head-to-head over Space Station, which is cool to note. Or I don't know, not cool, I guess, if you like Dark Zero, because they just barely made it into the major, but they made it. So it is what it is. Astralis, fairly spread out. They played 4 different maps and they went either -1, -0, or +1. And only the 1 losing on Chalet, so that's pretty good. And then you can see this stage where Beast Coast didn't win a single map. They got a few points by going to overtime, but they didn't win any maps. And XSET won a Consulate. They won a Cafe. This was against Mirage. This was Beast Coast, I think. And okay, let's move on to stage 3. And I'll go back here over here one more time if you want to just, if for some reason you want to glance at this before I look at the thumbs. Okay, so back over here. And right, so Bank is now introduced, but it was only played 2 games. It was Beast Coast versus TSM, absolute smashing, and then Dark Zero against Astralis, with medium smashing by Astralis onto Dark Zero. So, right, what do we got going on here? Space Station, of course, still dominant. They only lost the 1 Coastline game. This was against Sonics, and they went 2-0 on Clubhouse, 2-0 on Cafe, 3-0 on Oregon. So they didn't show, they hid a little bit, like they haven't showed Bank. They hid Chalet for this stage, but they showed it 3 times last stage. And then Villa, they haven't showed either, but they were 0-2 over the last 2 stages on Villa. So I'd have to say, like, this is their worst map at the moment. Maybe they have some absolute sauce cooking up at the kitchen ready for the Sweden Major, but we'll have to see on that one. Sonics, I mean, they only played 3 maps again, and they went -1 on Coastline, but 3-0 on Chalet, which, again, seems to be quite excellent of a map for them. Oxygen, no negative records, which is, they're one of the, this might be the only team that can boast this. I don't really want to check, because even Space Station in these 2 stages have a losing record, and they were the best team. But Oxygen, yeah, so they have a couple of evens, and then they have 3 winning records, so quite good on them. And once again, yeah, might be the only one to have done so in any of the stages. Not 100% on that, though. TSM, Oregon looks to be not so good for them. I swear they were really good at Oregon at one point, but maybe I'm thinking wrong. And then they won their Bank game, they won a Chalet game, and then they didn't do too hot on Clubhouse. They won a Cafe game. They seem quite good at Cafe. I think they're like 5-0 on Cafe over the season. And then we have Dark Zero, who have some mixed results. They played a bunch of maps. They played 5 different maps here, even one on Bank. So Astralis, yeah, pretty spread out as well. They played 6 different maps, which is quite interesting. No Clubhouse, but they played everything else. And Mirage, bad stage for them on Clubhouse. They're generally a pretty good Clubhouse team, and this record really should have been 2-2. They absolutely choked against Sonics. And I guess you could maybe say Sonics were choking early game, or well, it's not choking if you do it early game, right? Maybe you choke in rounds, but you're not like choking the whole game. They were just playing badly in the beginning of the game, and then Mirage played really badly at the end of the game. Sonics ended up getting the dub there, but they lost the other 3 Clubhouse games that they. Then they won 1 Clubhouse game. This was against TSM, and they lost 2 others against Oxygen and Space Station, which the top 2 teams in the stage. So it's hard to feel too bad about that. But losing your best map never feels good. Although I think it's unclear if Clubhouse. I think after this maybe Clubhouse isn't their best map, but I think before this it was, and Villa might actually be their best map. It's one of the 2, and we'll check it out down here in a second. Beast Coast, once again, I mean, like, they copped a couple dubs, I guess, but, nothing great. Who did they beat? They beat Mirage, I think, and they beat Exet. They definitely beat Exet. I think it's Mirage for the other one. Am I right? Beast Coast? Yeah, they did. So, okay. And then Exet, only the 1 win coming on Coastline, but they had several on Villa as well. They beat Dark Zero, right? And that was a close game. I guess we can just look at it really quick. 5-7, so almost went to overtime. If one more round win, they would not be having to fight for their spot in relegation right now, but it is what it is. Good win against Sonics. That was impressive. Got crushed by Oxygen on Oregon, but that's like either Oxygen's first or second best map, and it is what it is. Overtime against TSM, overtime against Dark Zero, max regulation against Mirage, and then these 2 were, not terribly close, but almost max against Beast Coast. And I do think if they had played this game, maybe even for the second play day, but if they played it definitely a few weeks later, I want to say that Exet probably would have won this game. It was very unfortunate that they had to play Beast Coast in their very first day. They did not seem ready for it when they would have been ready quite soon, I think. And I guess that's it for the stages. Now let's just go over and look at this. Okay, we're almost at 20 minutes, man. Time flies when I'm doing this, I swear. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. We have Space Station and again, map records, wins, draws, losses. Space Station having the 1 tied record, but of course they didn't play it, so that's why. And then Coastline and Villa, they went negative on, but overall, pretty good records, pretty decisive, +2, +3, +3, +3, very good. Sonics, the one, I don't know, I don't really need to keep mentioning this. Only 4 teams played Bank, so 5 teams didn't play Bank, giving them even records on it of 0-0. Sonics, 6-0 on Chalet. I think this is the single best map record of anybody in the league, so it's them on Chalet. And then like, TSM has a 5-0, but I don't even think anybody has 6 wins on a map besides this. No 6-1, 6-2s, any of that. that'd be a lot of maps. If you went 6-2 on a map, that means a third of your games were played on it. That'd be crazy. Good on Clubhouse as well. Only went negative on Villa and Coastline. And these 3 Coastline games actually were all played in stage 3, and they very curiously lost Xset and not too curiously lost Auction, and then they beat Space Station. So it's weird to lose to Xset and then beat Space Station on the same map. Very strange, but it is what it is. It happened. Consulate, Oregon, good. Okay. Oxygen didn't play Bank. 3-3 on Chalet. 2-3 on Clubhouse. And look, they only have 2 winning records, but I mean they're +4s both, so massively winning on Coastline on Oregon. Quite excellent maps for them. But 4 drawn records. With 2 of them, they didn't play at all. And then the 2 losing records, they only went -1. So again, the map record overall thing can be quite deceiving. So 4-0 for, or 4-1-3 for TSM with a 5-0 on Cafe. They're excellent on Cafe. Obviously we didn't see Space Station versus TSM on Cafe, unless is that where they played first stage? Yes, no. I'd love to see that. Maybe right now is not the time though. With Space Station at seemingly full power and TSM at not just decidedly not full power. But that'd be a good one to see. I think Cafe TSM versus Space Station. And then they did quite poor on Oregon overall, and then 1-1 on Villa. Dark Zero, 4-2-2, pretty good, even on Coastline, even on Oregon. Only -1 on Cafe and -1 on Bank, but then a +2, a +2, a +3, and a +1. So pretty good overall. They have a pretty solid map spread, I suppose. Astralis, this is where we start looking not so hot. This is the first one where anyone goes negative, I guess. But -1, -1, -1, and then a couple -2s. So not amazing, not terrible, but +1, +1, +1. So they're not actually that positive on their winning maps either, and that's why they're in the bottom half, and that's why they have a negative differential and whatnot. Now we start getting into the bottom half of the league, I guess. And then Mirage, 3-1-4, so a little bit better, but I mean because they didn't play Bank, I guess. Really bad on Chalet. And then kind of bad on Consulate and Cafe, and then Oregon just -1. But we got a +3 on Villa, quite excellent on Villa. And Clubhouse, they would be +4 again if they hadn't lost that game to the Sonics. So they were 4-0 before stage 3 on Clubhouse, and then could have been 6-2, but they are not. And then 2-1 on Coastline. Beast Coast, here we start seeing a lot of red, 1-1-6, and then Xset's gonna have no winning records. But 1-7 on Chalet. This is by far the worst. This is They played, of anyone, they played the most map, a single map the most times, right? 8 times. Nobody is even close to that. I think the next most is 6, maybe? I don't think, have we seen more than that? Oh no, Mirage played Clubhouse 8 times, my bad. So this is the most played winning, this is the most played losing, I believe. And then just, -1, -2, -2, bad, and then a -3 on Consulate, so. Good for them, though. I guess that Consulate's out, and disproportionately bad for teams like Dark Zero and Astralis and Sonics that both played and were good at Consulate. I guess Space Station maybe is good at Consulate. They only played it the one time, so I guess it favors maybe Mirage and Beast Coast that it's out, and disfavors Astralis, Dark Zero, Sonics that it's out. Okay, so, and you can see this 2-0 on Villa. So again, could have been a fluke, or could be actually a good map for them somehow. I guess I'd be curious to see them play it again at some point. And, maybe we will, maybe we won't. 0-0 here, and then a bunch of negatives. And, it's just not great for Xset. Like, they have, 2, 3 -1s, and then a couple of -2s, and then a -3 and a -4. Ugh, rough stuff for them. These stats make it look really bad for Xset. They were, clearly pretty bad on maps, and then the rounds not maybe a little bit better than Beast Coast, but I do think at this moment in time, Xset has more potential as a roster than Beast Coast, so we'll have to see if they get to stay in NAL by winning the relegation match. And God, this is about to be 25 minutes. I don't even know. I feel like I talked about it so much faster than the last video, but I guess not. So 6 minutes faster. Okay, so I'm gonna conclude it there, and I have another version of this that I'm gonna do where I'm not 100% sure actually if I did the rounds, but I definitely did the maps for just the top 7 teams. So I excluded Beast Coast and Xset so it's a little bit less skewed, so that you can see without the, quote unquote freebie wins or easier wins that teams got against these 2 teams, what the stats really look like. So we'll take a look at that in the future. Maybe not tomorrow, but coming up at some point. And then I also have a player stats thing that I think I have ready that I'll do at some point as well. So, okay, with all of that being said, I will catch you in the next video.